one. All right. Swim jig is such a fun way to catch them, and they get it. When the conditions are right, the fish are shallow, you need something to just skim over the tops, swim jig is the deal. Thank you, buddy. Hell yeah. Oh, that's a good one. God, he came out, just smoked it. Cracked my ribs on that one. Nice. All right. A white swim jig, a fired up bass. Game on. Thank you, dude. Oh, ooh. Jumpy. It felt like a bite, but that was a bite. God, they're strong. Shallow, angry bass. Yes, fish is fat. Okay, okay, okay. Nice. All right, another one. We're just running shallow power fishing with a swim jig. So swim jig is just a really fun way to kind of blend like flipping and power reaction bait fishing, right? So usually when you think of power reaction baits, you're thinking square bill, chatterbait, right? Things where, you know, you're just casting and winding. And then usually when you think of like flipping, you're talking about a soft plastic, something that you can slow down with, really pick things apart. Swim jig's kind of a good blend of both of those things. You can fish it kind of how I'm doing now, where it's just kind of a, you know, kind of a slow retrieve, just a cast and wind the same way you would a normal reaction style bait. But you can just as easily choose to kind of flip it or pitch it. You know, I can flip it to the end of this tree, I can let it sink down to the bottom, and I can fish it just like I would something on the bottom, right? So I could fish it just like a beaver or, you know, a normal jig on the bottom, and then, you know, I can just start swimming again. So it's a great kind of hybrid when you're not sure exactly what they want, but you know exactly where they are, and that's in shallow, nasty stuff. Swim jig's dope. Anytime I'm in shallow, you know, nasty stuff, and I'm not sure that they're gonna fully chase and commit to a chatterbait, a squirrel, maybe it's too nasty for a square bill, right? A swim jig's a great alternative, especially if they're eating any bait. And so the two swim jigs that I love are the Jackall B Crawl Swimmer, which is what I'm rigging up right now, and I'm putting a Citizen Micro on the back of it, so it's just kind of a white on white, okay? It's just a dirty, filthy shad imitation. The other one that I love, especially when they're on, you know, white colors, is, I'm gonna rig this one up right now also. This is the O.S.P Slipper Jig. Now the slipper jig I actually prefer when I'm fishing around big wood that I'm gonna slow down on. So if I'm gonna let this flutter down to the bottom, I actually prefer this. It comes through cover really, really easy. On the back of this, I put a 4-inch O.S.P Dolive Shad. The Dolive Shad is a perfect one. The 4-inch fits this perfect. It's just a nice compact combination. So this particular one is a nice kind of cool color from the saltwater that's almost identical to albino pearl shad. So it has that just kind of magical color shift to it, and that one is deadly as well. Down to the tree. All right. On the slipper. Good guy. Thank you, buddy. Just crawled out of the tree, just slow and methodical, letting it fall over the branches. Exactly like what we talked about. I'm looking for areas where maybe there's a small lane, there's something that maybe I can actually literally swim it through. Now, a lot of you guys on the East Coast will do what's known as like the Alabama shake, where you're throwing it and you're literally just, you're shaking it like crazy, right? You're throwing a little lighter weight, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, and you're literally just kind of, shaking the swim jig. On the West Coast, out here, we usually are fishing a little deeper water. We have grown accustomed to utilizing the swim jig more, I would say, like a, well, kind of like a square bill, where it's more of a chuck and wind type of a bait for us. And we'll come into areas like this, they're just full of laydowns. And what I'm looking for is areas where I can swim it through, and then if I hit a laydown, I can just kind of pull it up and over, let it kind of swim down, move it around a little bit more. It's a great way to just cover ground and try to figure out if you can see where they are. So this kind of water is really my favorite for a swim jig. I love areas where there's just all kinds of branches kind of crisscrossed around. And it's complicated to throw, like a chatterbait or a square bill because there's too many like logs and laydowns that are kind of in the way. With a swim jig, I can just kind of swim it up and over each one, and then it gets to the top of it, I can just kill it, come over to the top of the next one, kill it, let it fall down, and you can really efficiently fish through this stuff, but also you could tell, where are they? Are they in the middle? Are they underneath one of the laydowns? Are they eating at the top of the laydown? Are they eating at the bottom? You can learn a lot about the fish in a pretty quick amount of time, but you also have the versatility to just turn around and fire a flip in. All right, so you see a good spot that looks like, oh man, there should be one in that hole. You could flip it just like you would, a beaver or anything else. So it's just an incredibly versatile tool for covering a lot of ground. Dude, if you just flipped a Senko, out deeper, smallest one of the day. Thanks for playing. All right, so equipment-wise, for swim jigs can be very similar to a lot of the other jig style fishing that we've talked about. Destroyer P5 BMG and the TS Destroyer Poker are two that I use a lot. So I was throwing the slipper jig on the Destroyer P5 BMG, which is my favorite swim jig rod. It's 7.5, it's nice and soft, it's perfect for a swim jig, but you kind of need some open space to be able to cast it around, whether it's overhand or sidearm. If you get back into cover too much, it's a little long, it's a 7.5 rod, and so it has a tendency to just give you a little bit of trouble when you're trying to pitch and do closer range, more accurate stuff. So that's when I'll drop down to the poker, because it's 7.2, it's a big rod, it's a stout rod, so I always go to 22-pound Sunline Shooter on the poker, 20-pound on the BMG. 8-to-1 gear ratio usually on this, because again, you're in shallow cover, so you want to be able to hit them and move them out, but it's straightforward. It's super easy, and again, your cast is just, you're throwing out, and you're pretty much just letting it get down to the bottom. And I'd recommend just kind of a slow, methodical movement. It just allows you to cover a ton of ground without having to just wait for that soft plastic to move very, very slowly. So give it a shot. I know you guys are gonna love it. Oh, slipped off. All right. Such a fun way to get them. Slipper jig, Dolive shad, shallow water. Dope. Hell yeah. So there you go. I mean, there's not much to this way of fishing. I mean, you can make it as complicated as you want, but you can really make it super simple. Just a cast and wind, and just utilize it to look for areas that hold a ton of fish. So next time you guys get out and you don't know where to start and you've got some really, really skinny water, try a swim jig. Try that O.S.P Slipper Jig, try that Jackall Beat Crawl swim jig. They're both excellent. Put a little paddle tail on the back, you're good to go. Chuck and wind. Have fun.